Okay, so in this video we're going to go over the accessory organs, the ducts and pancreas, all that kind of stuff. So this is the good part. Okay, so we want to start with all the ducts, which can be confusing, and sometimes surgeons actually make mistakes on this. So right here are the left and the right hepatic ducts. Okay, so these are coming from the liver. Gotta find the right stylus, sorry. These are coming from the liver. So they're going to drain the bile that's coming from the liver, and it's going to, well, we'll get there, one thing at a time. So these are coming from the liver, the left and right hepatic. Okay, so they merge, they come together, and they form the common hepatic duct, which is right here. Okay, so common hepatic duct, that's coming from the liver. Now, the common hepatic duct, which is right here, and this duct, which is called the cystic duct, they come together and they form this duct, which is called the common bile duct. Okay, so the cystic duct comes from the gallbladder. Okay, and the gallbladder, cyst is a sac. Okay, so cystic duct, the gallbladder is a sac. So the cystic duct is coming from the gallbladder. Okay, so cystic duct comes together with the common hepatic duct, and they form what's called the common bile duct. Okay, now, the common bile duct is going to come in, okay, and it's going to actually merge with this main pancreatic duct, and they are going to dump into the duodenum at this hepatopancreatic ampulla. Okay, so they're right there, and there's a sphincter there that's going to control when the secretions come in. Okay, so this is the duodenum. Okay, so duodenum, first part of this, the first part of the small intestines. Okay, this is the pancreas, which looks like chewed up gum. Okay, gallbladder. Okay, so let's start at the top again. Let me maybe change colors. Okay, so if we start at the top, so right and left hepatic ducts, okay, they combine and they form the common hepatic duct. Okay, so that's what's coming from the liver. Okay, gallbladder, cystic duct. Okay, those two come together and they form the common bile duct. So common bile duct is right here. So it's all of this. Okay, now, when they go to remove your gallbladder, they want to cut the cystic duct. Okay, they're going to cut that and take this out. If they cut here, it's going to cause problems because there's no place for the bile to drain. Okay, now the pancreas has a couple of ducts. Okay, so it's got the main pancreatic duct, which just kind of travels down the middle of the leaf, that's the pancreas. And then it's got this minor one. Okay, so the minor one doesn't join with any bile. It just dumps in to the duodenum at this minor duodenal papilla. So it dumps in up here. Okay, now the main one, it joins with this common bile duct. And it's not like the joint is so short, you can't even see it. Okay, but they join and then they dump into the small intestines. Okay, now the bile is made in the liver. You need bile to digest fats. Okay, if it's not being used, it actually gets backed up and stored in the gallbladder. Okay, so the gallbladder's job is to store bile. So it backs up and it gets stored there. So these two have to be connected. Okay, so the liver. The liver is in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen. It's our largest organ, so 2 to 4 pounds. Okay, it's going to receive blood through the hepatic artery, so oxygen-rich blood. Okay, now, the hepatic portal vein is nutrient-rich blood, but it's going to have oxygen poor. Okay, the hepatic portal vein actually drains the abdominal organs. Okay, so as you go smaller into the liver, as you get into the histology of it, you're going to see hepatic sinusoids, which are thin-walled capillaries that have huge gaps. Okay, they're going to absorb nutrients, and they're going to contain Kupffer cells. So Kupffer cells are macrophages. So what's a macrophage again? It's something that's going to gobble up something bad. Okay, now the bile actually drains down a canal, which is called a bile canaliculi. Okay, so it drains down that, and I'll show you in a picture in a minute. Okay, now bile, what is it? So bile is basically, it's water, it's bicarbonate, it's bile salts, bile pigments, which come from heme, okay, so come from the hemoglobin. It's got cholesterol in it, it's got lecithin in it, and it's got mucin in it. Okay, so the bile, we secrete a half to a liter of bile from your liver every day. Okay, we always show it as green. Okay, it always looks green. Bile's green. Okay, or else it's a disgusting yellow. Okay, so the function of bile, it's going to help us digest lipids. Okay, so it's going to help us digest lipids. It's going to help us emulsify them. So when you have a big fat glob and you mix it up, okay, it mixes into these little globs. The little globs will go back together, but the bile salts actually surround them, and then they can't go back together. Okay, so it keeps the fats emulsified. Okay, now gross anatomy of the liver, you'll go over this in lab. Okay, so you can see it right here. Okay, so right lobe is the biggest lobe. Left lobe is the small lobe. The falciform liver divides the lobes, and then the round ligament protrudes off of there. The gallbladder is on the back of the liver, so you have to raise the liver up to see the gallbladder. So it's kind of like it's embedded in there. The quadrate lobe is here. Okay, so I always think of it, it has 4 sides. The caudate lobe is this little part. It looks kind of like a tail sticking up. Okay, so here's the inferior vena cava coming into it. Now when you look at it, you'll see an area that has 3 vessels, so the porta hepatis. So it has the hepatic portal vein, the hepatic artery, and a common hepatic duct. You'll be able to see all of those on the model. But they're all together right here. Okay, now if, I meant to take this out. So this is kind of the same picture, but you can see here's the hepatic portal vein, here's the hepatic artery, and then there's the common bile duct. Oh, here's the common hepatic duct. Let's see, we'll just keep going here. Okay, now the microscopic anatomy of the liver. So the liver is set up where it's actually in these little lobules. Okay, so a lobule kind of goes like this. Okay, so there's these little units. I always think you have a whole bunch of these things put together. Okay, now in the center of them there's a vein. Okay, and that's called the central vein. So like right there's the central vein. Okay, now in the corners of them you're going to have three vessels. Okay, so you're going to have a hepatic portal vein, an hepatic artery, and a bile ductal. Okay, so 3 things. So blue, red, green. Okay, at the corners of each of these. So I could make it red, blue, green. Okay, green, red, blue. So it's going to be at every corner. Okay. Now, the liver cells, okay, they're called hepatocytes. Okay, so each of these little cuboidal cells is a hepatocyte. So hepatocyte, hepato, liver, cyte, cell. Okay, now what's going to happen is the blood is going to enter these cells, enter these lobules, and it's going to be filtered. Okay, so when the blood enters, the blood is going to flow this way towards the central vein. Okay, so it's coming from the artery, it's coming from the hepatic portal vein, and it's all going to the central, so it's going this way, going to the central vein. So let's go headed this way. Okay, now we're removing nutrients and putting them into the blood. We're removing toxins and getting rid of them, bile pigments, drugs, and garbage we want to get rid of. Okay, now the bile goes the other direction. Okay, so the hepatocytes are making the bile, but they're pumping the bile towards these bile ductules. Okay, so they're making the bile go this way. Okay, so we have things flowing two directions. Okay, so we have blood going this way, and we have bile going the opposite direction. Okay, so gallbladder and bile. Okay, so the gallbladder, it's a sac on the underside of the liver. It's about 10 centimeters long. Okay, so how many inches is that? That's about, 3 inches, 4 inches? Okay, we make between a half a liter and a liter of bile in the liver. Okay, if we don't dump it in, or you don't have a gallbladder, okay, it just goes straight into the duodenum. Okay, but if you do have a gallbladder, okay, the gallbladder stores and concentrates the bile. Okay, so I kind of talked about all this. So it's yellow-green, it has minerals, bile acids, cholesterol, bile salts, phospholipids. So that's the lecithin. Okay, so lecithin are phospholipids. It's green because it's the breakdown of the heme from the hemoglobin. Okay, so eventually what will happen is it'll go from green to brown. Okay, and I just already told you that. So the bile salts are going to help it emulsify the fats, and it's going to help us digest them. So sometimes they say if you're missing your gallbladder, you have a harder time digesting fats. Some people do and some people don't, so it totally depends on the person. Okay, so here is, I just wanted to see this picture of gallstones. So gallstones build up either because of the minerals in the bile. So you guys can read about it, but I just wanted you to see them because they're big and they would get stuck in those little ducts and cause pain problem. Okay, now the pancreas. Okay, so I always draw the pancreas like a leaf. Okay, so it's kind of a leaf, and it's like this. It's retroperitoneal. Okay, it's under the stomach, so you're going to have to look under the stomach. It has a head, so this is the head. It has a body, and then it has the tail. Okay, so the head is up here. Remember, it's got it's an endocrine and an exocrine gland. Okay, so it makes insulin and glucagon, two hormones, and dumps it into the blood. But its exocrine function is to secrete pancreatic juice into the duodenum. Okay, so some of the things that are found in pancreatic juice are pancreatic amylase, which is going to break down starch. I'm getting so frustrated with the whole iPad thing today. Pancreatic lipase, which would break down fats, right? Lipids. Zymogens, which are going to break down proteins. And nucleases, which are break down nucleic DNA, RNA. Okay, so the pancreas is going to contribute a ton of enzymes for chemical digestion. Okay, so where do the ducts open? Okay, so here's the main pancreatic duct. Here's the accessory pancreatic duct. It opens at this minor duodenal papilla, so superior, and then the hepatopancreatic ampulla is where the hepatopancreatic duct opens. Okay, so they're going to open in the duodenum. Okay, and if you look at this, you could see why pancreatic cancer is so hard. Most of the time, pancreatic cancer is actually a cancer of the ducts. Okay, so it gets in those ducts, and those ducts are all so close together, and pancreas, gallbladder, liver's there, intestines are there, so it's just all really packed in there tight together. Okay, so the pancreas has two types of cells. It has acinar cells, and then it's got the islet cells. Right now we're just talking about exocrine function, which exocrine would be, we're dumping into ducts. Okay, so zymogens are proteases, so they break down proteins. Okay, trypsinogen is one of them. Okay, chymotrypsinogen is another one, and pro-carboxypeptidase. So if you see pro before something or O-gen after something, okay, that means they're inactive. So they have to be activated. We make sure that proteases are inactive because we don't want to digest ourselves. It would be like the fly. Okay, now other enzymes that are released here are amylase, pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase, and ribonuclease and deoxyribonuclease. Okay, so this is showing you the two types of cells. These are the islet cells, and then these are the cells with the exocrine function. That's no big deal. I just thought it was cool to see, because they're talking about with people who are diabetic, they're talking about coming up with ways to insert these cells into here and making a new pancreas. Okay, now, how do we regulate accessory structures? Okay, so cholecystokinin, which you guys remember as CCK, comes from the small intestines whenever fatty chyme hits it. Okay, so that causes the gallbladder to contract. Okay, so that means we'll release bile. It causes the pancreas to secrete its enzymes. It tells that hepatopancreatic sphincter to relax. Then it slows down the stomach and the secretions coming from the stomach. Okay, the secretin is released from the small intestines in response to the chyme being acidic. Okay, so the hydrogen ions. Okay, and it's going to say release alkaline secretions that are going to come from the liver or come from the pancreas so that we can neutralize the pH.